The first question that we asked was, how did the tone change when news media talked about COVID-19? The graph below indicates how many of the respondents selected one of the provided answer choices. The Likert scale helps us to quantify the feelings of the respondents, and from the collected data, we can conclude that most respondents were unhappy with the tone of news media outlets used to report on COVID-19.
The second question that we asked was, how well did people trust the media coverage during COVID-19? During the pandemic, media coverage was the biggest way for us to get information due to the quarantining that was required. In the chart, we can see that 52% of people thought that it was very trustworthy, 39% thought it was moderately trustworthy, and 9% thought it was not very trustworthy at all. As you can see, over half of the people thought that during COVID-19 the media coverage was very trustworthy, and that's where they trusted most of their information from.
The third question that we asked ourselves was, how well do news companies cover global issues compared to local or national issues? The graph below illustrates the frequency of news coverage for media for COVID-19 reports at both the global and the national local levels. News companies have been making an effort to provide a balanced view of global and local national issues during COVID-19 pandemic. Their comprehensive coverage aims to reassure audiences by ensuring that they are not overwhelmed by the global context, while also staying well informed about specific implications for their own communities. Both global and local national issues have been extensively analyzed and reported on, although the nature of coverage differs. Global issues are not approached with a broader perspective, while local and national issues receive more specific and detailed attention. This approach demonstrates news companies' dedication to addressing a wide range of concerns through a thorough and considerate manner.
The fourth question is, how well did news organizations separate conflicts of interest when reporting? Many reporters had family members who were sick with COVID or had passed from COVID or just had experiences with COVID, so learning to separate that from work was hard during the time of the pandemic. This graph shows that 40 participants did not separate conflicts of interest well at all, 40 people not too well, and only 13 people thought that somewhat well reporters separated their conflict of interest.
The fifth question that we studied answers, how did social media manage to provide information to their users during the pandemic? To further comprehend the graph, it's essential to understand that the key point was if news was actively sought out by social media users or if they saw the information passively. Almost a fourth of individuals report that they saw their news over social media by engaging it and searching it out. Social media and news channels became the only means used to get the news amidst the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. These channels were a quintessential part in understanding new regulations, world monitoring, and vaccine updates as well. As the rest of the graph shows, most people agreed that they got their information by seeking it out rather than seeing it passively as they were scrolling social media. Our sixth question asks, how did news organizations separate their coverage from fact versus opinion in their coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic? As you can see by the graph, 45% said not too well, almost 12% said somewhat well, and the remaining 43% said not well at all. The graph created showcases how the public viewed the ability of news channels to keep to the facts surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. 43.01% of the public found that they did a not well job at all from keeping the facts without opinion. Both political parties try to push their agenda on the audience, and the graph ultimately reflects that. Collectively, only about 12% of people thought that the news did a great job at reporting an unopinionated coverage and updates pertaining to the pandemic.